Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of Full Steam Ahead. I'm your host, Zoe. Been a long time, but of course, the work week is always busy and working, of course, family duties as well. But hey, we are getting ready. This is already the first week of spring training at West Palm Beach. Pitchers and catchers already been there for a while. Positional players have already gone there for a while too. So we're gonna get that 1 week going. We have a lot of updates to give y'all. I know I haven't been getting out there. I've been, like I said, been busy. I'm gonna try to post all the videos from spring training as well. And yeah, I mean, just been a busy week as well. A lot of things coming up in Houston with the Houston Rodeo, the World Baseball Classic, and much more. But episode 300, wow, milestone right there, 300. Tyler, like I said, first week of spring training. It's going to be at West Palm Beach at Travis Scott's ballpark over there, the Cacti Ballpark, where the Houston Astros and the Washington Nationals do share a facility with each other. So we got our objectives right there to the side. Spring training has arrived. Some infield talk because, of course, you can't have an Astros podcast without talking about the surplus of infielders in the infield of the depth of this team that they have. Houston makes more moves. A pretty known guy that was with Houston that came up as a rookie and highly regarded prospect and then got traded at the deadline. He's back with Houston. Another familiar name, at least the last name, Biggio. Well, the Sun is coming to Houston, so we're going to be talking about that. Some player interviews because there have been a lot of things going on to World Baseball Classic to maybe a possibly ending of the career right here in his last year, an engagement as well. We have a lot, like I said, to talk about. Not to mention, too, we have a little bit of injury updates regarding some players, especially an important one in the Astros bullpen. But before we get started, put at the bottom right here our TikTok, Full Steam Ahead, FSA Full Steam Ahead on Instagram, Twitter, X, we're at Full Steam Ahead. And of course, on our YouTube channel, like I mentioned, I'm going to get into them videos posting pretty soon with some of the interviews with some of the positional players, including even some pitchers like Tatsuya Imai, Mark Burrows, Ryan Weiss. I know Ryan Weiss and Mike Burrows interviews already up on our channel, but to stick tuned, of course, we're going to have that Christian Walker interview. We're going to have the Carlos Correa one up, Jeremy Pena. A lot of players, like I said, I've been busy as of late, but we're going to get that on our YouTube channel as soon as possible. So make sure you go and give us a subscribe, hit that notification bell so you won't miss any of the interviews as well coming up throughout this spring training, as well as the World Baseball Classic. Some of the Astros players are going to be participating. Jeremy Pena is going to be with the Dominican Republic, while Zach DeZenza is going to be with Team Italy, and Shea Whitcomb is going to be with Team Korea. So it'd be interesting to see if we could get with Zach DeZenza when Team Italy plays at Daikin Park. I will be covering the World Baseball Classic for our Skeena Media. So, of course, we're going to be able to get some interviews with not just some Latino players, but with some of your favorite Astros, as well as your favorite players just in baseball in general. So make sure, like I had mentioned, to give it a subscribe and follow us. And of course, on the audio side, we are on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. So make sure you go download all the good stuff. Give us some feedback. Give us some ratings as well. So we really appreciate each and every single one of you out there that is listening to the pod. Like I said, it's been a while. It's been a very long while since the last time I talked to you. I even got to apologize on my end on the episode from the last live podcast. It had catch the flight and it was chase the fight. So I my apologies on that. I guess dyslexic on my end or autocorrect, whatever you'd like to call it. But that is my mistake. So I do want to apologize on that part. But we are not going to be making any more mistakes like that anytime soon. So let's start it off with the infield talk, because the Astros are going into spring training at West Palm Beach with, of course, no secret at all, with an abundance of infielders that are literally, you could put them as starters for any other team in the league. You could place this guy at this position and he'll be a starter for this team. I mean, we could go on like Christian Walker. He could be the starting first baseman right now for the San Diego Padres. Isaac Paredes, he could be the starting third baseman for the Boston Red Sox. So really, specifically, those two players are the ones that we're going to talk about specifically more in this talk because rumors have been going throughout this whole offseason. Of course, some players do keep in touch with the offseason rumors and the trade rumors and things like that. Some of the other players, I mean, they're just minding their own business, doing their own workouts, being with their family, maybe some winter ball league as well, like Isak. But we'll start off with Christian Walker because a lot of Astro fans are trying to figure out who's going to be the first one to go. Is it going to be Christian Walker or Isak Paredes? I know an abundance of Astro fans see Paredes as being a guy that they would like for him to stay. But my personal opinion, it's probably going to be Christian Walker staying with the Houston Astros. I've already talked about what he brings to the table, even though he kind of had a down season last year with Houston. But some important things to see coming into spring training with him. Lost about 10 to 12 pounds, tweaked some of his mechanics in his swing, especially a toe tap. If you look at his swing, kind of have a little leg raise when he was getting into his load. But now he's tooling into a factor of getting a little toe tap down. Been working with that, I want to say, this whole offseason. So big things for him trying to get better offensively. If you remember, that first half was just very horrific for him, I would say. But that second half of the season, that's when he kind of started seeing the Christian Walker the Astros were expecting offensively when he was with the Arizona Diamondbacks. So, like I mentioned, names are being thrown into the pool of trade rumors, and his name specifically was on the radar as well as Isaac Paredes. And he had to talk about, the media asking him about his name being in trade rumors and just overall things like that. So there's a quote from Chandler Rome's article from The Athletic, and this is the quote: "From my perspective, I try to stay out of it as much as I can, just a better headspace for the offseason. It's part of it, a very realistic part of the business, but as far as I'm concerned, this is home, and I'm looking forward to this year." Not to mention, too, he had his baby girl last season during the regular season, and more than likely, and I had mentioned it too from previous podcasts, he wanted to enjoy that offseason with his family, especially with his daughter as well. So, and that's what he did. He literally spent majority of his time with his family and spending it with his baby girl, and you can't blame him. With me even having a baby girl too, I'm trying to do my best on my end when it comes to work and being able to still be with family. And for baseball players, it's very different playing 162 games in the regular season, and then playoffs, you're on the road. So they know it's a little bit more tougher for them compared to some of us that are working just 9 to 5 jobs. But of course, the other question was, is he open to being a starter here and then having a day off, being on the bench, 2 days starting, 1 day on the bench? He was basically talking about playing time regarding the 162 game season for the Houston Astros. And this is his quote: "My concern and my goal is for the team to be the best it could be for this season. All of us want to play every day. Every single guy in this clubhouse wants to play 162 games. My goal is to be on the field every single day. Layer that with what makes the team the best. I'm here for the team, and I'm here to win a World Series." End quote. And we can just move to Isaac Paredes real quick, and then we'll get into the fun of things with this infield, even some Carlos Correa quotes as well. And this is from Isaac Paredes. He got into camp on Sunday, February 15. And of course, the media scrum is going to go after him. And the biggest thing of them all coming into the season is trades, and his name being on top of the list for every single team. I would even say Houston trying to shop him to see what they can receive on the other end if they do decide to trade away Isaac Paredes. Well, Paredes had talked about the trade rumors, and this is what he had to say, quote: "I only control what I do on the field. Whatever they're going to do, that's out of my control." End quote. And it's true. He really can't do nothing at the end of the day. Baseball is a business, and this is where the ugly side of the business is. Besides the arbitration hearings and things like that, it comes to the trades, because these players build relationships in the clubhouses, special bond with teammates, and If your name's getting thrown in trade rumors and then your name's getting thrown in a trade, I mean, you can't do nothing about it at the end of the day unless you have a no trade clause like Christian Walker. So for Isak, I mean, he was able to get some reps at first base, second base, third base. That is the goal for Joe Espada this spring training if Paredes is going to stay with the Houston Astros. Um, I mean, earlier this week or not too long ago, I mean, Isak Perez was already taking some grounders at second base with Jose Altuve. And not to mention, too, we got to talk about Jose Altuve real quick. Joe Espada had told the media that Jose Altuve will be spending most of his spring working exclusively at second base. So, what does that mean for the Astros? Do you think Jose Altuve is going to play left field? Is he going to be a permanent second baseman slash DH? There's a lot of question marks now regarding how that was told, and basically saying Jose Altuve is going to be second baseman for the Houston Astros going forward. And I mean, that's his natural position at the end of the day. Houston gave it a chance last year. I mean, there were some games he did really good, some games he was still adjusting. And I think Houston would like to prevent playing Altuve back at left field. But of course, Joe Espada, Dana Brown, they've talked about, of course, he could still get some playing time at left field. But Joe had already talked about and discussed it. He'd like to just have Jose Altuve be at second base. And it makes a lot of sense. Yes, the defensive metrics of DRS and the assists and things like that have gone, a little bit down. But of course, when you're getting older, you're starting to age. I mean, you're not at your top of your peak like how it used to be. So of course, you're going to see some of them downgrades in his game. And you got to remember, Jose Altuve, more than likely, is going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't know if he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but more than anything, he is probably going to be in Cooperstown with his plaque on the wall with some of the other Astro greats and, of course, all of baseball greats at Cooperstown, New York. And let's get Carlos Correa out the way too, because he had to talk about the moves that the Astros were making, and of course the whole infield depth that they have, as in the starting positions. Correa was brought to Houston at the trade deadline last deadline to be the Astros' third baseman, and more than anything, that was going to be the future for him, was staying at the hot corner for the Houston Astros for the rest of his career. So the media had asked Correa about the infield, the depth, and the surplus, and all these guys, being able to be starters on other teams and stuff like that. And quote from him: "I'm not a GM, but I know that only 4 infielders can play at a time." End quote. But he also did mention too, so let's not take that bad away from him, what he's trying to say. I mean, it makes 100% sense. But he did also say it's a good problem to have too with the infield depth that they have, just in case guys need some rest days. If a guy does get injured and has to miss some time, you got a guy that's already capable of being a great plug and play compared to other guys. Like I had mentioned in the last podcast, nothing against Nick Allen, but you would put Isak Paredes over Nick Allen. Like, think about it. So going overall, like I'd mentioned in the infield talk, this is what I think. And this is just me talking. I'm not saying what players are saying. This is just me personally talking. Christian Walker is not going anywhere. He is going to be a Houston Astro in 2026. And more than likely, could possibly in 2027. He has 2 years on his contract left with Houston. He has a full no trade clause as well. The only way Walker is traded is if he accepts a trade where Houston is willing to trade him to whatever team. And if that team that Houston's trading with wants Walker and Walker likes the team he wants to go with, let's say it's the New York Mets, because he's from Philly. And I don't think that'd be a good place for him if he was growing up in Philly. Of course, that rivalry in the NL East. But my saying is he would have to be the one to approve the trade. So that's already one factor going into that. But why I'm saying Walker is going to stay with the Houston Astros is because you've already paying $20 million AAV each year, $40 million left on 2 years. He is a defensive first baseman. And I've always said this ever since Houston had acquired him. and free agency. Christian Walker, 3-time Gold Glove infielder at first base. This is a guy that you need for your infield. Carlos Correa has a great arm. Of course, there might be a time that he needs a pick from Walker, and Walker is a really good first baseman to be picking. Same goes for Jeremy Pena. If he has to do that jump throw like Derek Jeter does, and he needs a scoop or he has a one hop to Walker, I mean, I feel like you would be more comfortable with a first baseman that's already familiar at that position than trading him away and then having to develop another player at a position that they've played very limited. So I see a big year for Walker coming up, not just defensively, because this year he wasn't a finalist. Well, last season was a finalist for the Rawlings Gold Glove Award because he had won it 3 consecutive times from them years in Arizona. But besides the defensive metrics, the offensive part of his game is where Houston is going to need him mightily. Yes, he did have about almost close to 90 RBIs or just at 90 RBIs for Houston last season, but that was a Christian Walker that didn't play a great 162 game season with the Houston Astros. That was just the Christian Walker of the second half of the season that was finally starting to get familiar with his game, getting better at his approach and his at bats. Because, mind you, he did have a lot of strikeouts last season for the Houston Astros, and we can take a search onto to his numbers last year. It wasn't the best, like I had mentioned with Houston. And when we're talking about the strikeouts, it was a career high, 177. The next highest after 177 is you got to go back to 2019 with 155. So with Arizona, in his last season with Arizona, his slash line was 251, 335, 468, OPS over 800. He hasn't had an OPS under 800. Of course, with the Astros was 717, but before that, it was in 2021. So the potential is still there. Yes, he is getting older in age. He is 34. He will be 35 literally next month, on March 28th. He will be 35 years old. And of course, you've seen the trends. And I was just talking about this about Jose Altuve. Jose Altuve is just a different animal, but with other players. Of course, Jose Abreu, Houston thought he was going to be really good coming from Chicago, and it just did not do well in his second season. That's a trend. Though I just do not see it with Walker, especially with this trade rumor stuff. Yes, you can ignore it as a player. And like I said, I'm not speaking for Walker. I'm not saying like that. I'm just throwing my opinion. You can use that as fuel and just momentum and motivation going into your offseason, thinking another guy's going to take your position. That's just bringing wood to the fire, getting everything ready, ramped up. You want to have a good season this coming year. And that's why I say Christian Walker is going to have a better year than last year. It's going to be a good year offensively. Yes, defensively as well, but offensively, that's where you're going to see the home run numbers be up because he had, let's see, how many home runs he had. He had 27 home runs. And like I said, almost at 90 RBIs, he was at 88 RBIs. So the power's still there. Minute Maid or Daikin Park, my mistake, is a good ballpark for him, especially because he is a pull happy hitter, just like he's Paredes. So that's why I believe and I feel very comfortable saying that he's going to have a better year than last year. 27 home runs, 88 RBIs. I can see him matching that, at least the home runs. He could possibly get to 30 home runs, but I do see the RBIs going up. I know for sure it can be over 90 this season. Hasn't had one since 23 when he had a really good offensive season, 33 home runs, 103 RBIs. So, like I said, I mean, he's been working with the toe tap this offseason with his mechanics and his swing. Of course, the Astros do have new hitting coaches, not to mention. So, for me personally, my opinion, I believe that Christian Walker is going to have a bounce back season for the Houston Astros. That's why I just do not see Houston trading him, not just for the offensive part, but the defensive part as well. I think that's the biggest part of Christian Walker's game is that you need a great defensive first baseman. Houston's always had a great defensive first baseman with Yuli Gurriel, but since Yuli had left from the Houston Astros, they have been looking and searching for the next best defensive first baseman. Everybody remembers how 2024 was. It was literally a platoon of first basemen. Uh, Not mentioning DFA by Jose Abreu. Jose Abreu's 23 season defensively wasn't really good either. Had a good offensive season, but not a great defensive season. So for me, that's why you will not be seeing Christian Walker in another uniform besides the Houston Astros. Now we can go with Isaac Paredes. And I've always talked about this. If Isaac doesn't get traded from the Astros, it's a good thing to have. You're just going to have to be creative and find ways to put him into the game. Yordan Alvarez has already talked about that he's still open to playing left field. He never said that he doesn't want to play left field. He told the media that. And if you look at his numbers too, when he plays left field, he looks, I mean, offensively at least, he looks very different. The ball just looks like a beach ball apparently at the play. I think he had like a 330 batting average. And when he's DH, he's at like a 270. I forgot who had posted it. I had saw the numbers. I couldn't find it. But getting off track, at least with Yordan, talking about Isaac, you're going to find ways. Either Jose Altuve goes to DH, you put Yordan left, vice versa. Yordan goes to the DH, Jose Altuve goes to left, Isaac Paredes at second base. Carlos Correa needs a day off, goes to third base. Christian Walker needs a day off, goes to first base. You will not be seeing him. The only position I say you're not going to see him is at shortstop. Jerry Pena has a goal of playing 162 games this season. He's very firm at that. And last season, honestly, if he wasn't hurt, he probably would have played 162 games. So for Isaac Paredes, yeah, at his end, at least, he has to be patient. He has to continue going, ramping up on his spring training. He did play a little bit of winter ball. He feels 100% coming into spring training as well, not to mention. So if Houston keeps Paredes, it's still a good sign. Of course, teams are still going to be calling and trying to acquire Paredes, not to mention. But if Houston keeps him through the spring training and going into the season, the Astros are just going to have to be very creative of how they're going to put Isaac on the field, because you do want to play your best players on the field, especially in the beginning of the season. You want to set the tone for the 162 games. Yes, Dusty Baker did say it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. However, you do want to set the tone. You do not want to play back, just like, I mean, every Houston Astros season from the beginning has been a slow start. It's been a trend for so many seasons. However, when you got a guy like Paredes that can hit the ball really good, has a great plate discipline, works the count. Yes, he does strike out occasionally, but he still puts the ball in play at times. So it's like Correa had mentioned, it's a good problem to have when you have all this infield depth. It's just not enough mouths to feed. If there was a open infield position, Paredes is on the field, no doubt about it. However, you only could put 4 guys out there. Like he said, Correa is going to man third base. Pena is going to man shortstop. Like I said, that left side of the infield is not to be touched unless Correa needs a day off or if some injury happens. Isaac's only way he's going to be seeing playing time with the Astros is only if he's going to be on the right side. It's going to either be at second base, it's going to be at first base, and it's going to be at the DH. So if Houston keeps him, they keep him, but don't be surprised that the Astros are in the back trying to see what's their best options, at least in trades. Of course, teams are still going to be acquiring about Paredes, and that's another thing too. And I had predicted, if I would be shocked if the Astros didn't trade him before opening day. They should have him traded by opening day at least, and in spring training for sure. But like I mentioned, I'd be shocked if they didn't trade him before opening day. And if you're Houston, you're just trying to get the best in the trade. You heard Dana Brown had mentioned left-handed hitter being the biggest one of them all. and he's going to try to find a way to get that because Houston's biggest needs right now is a left-handed hitter. Yes, the Astros did acquire Joey Loperfido, but he is not the answer for a power slash contact slash everyday outfielder. That's going to be in the Astros lineup for whatever so many games that Joe Espada puts on the lineup card. So, like I said, Paredes plays is good for Houston. Don't be surprised if they're trying to work out a trade in the background. And for me, I think it's the biggest thing to do is you're gonna have to trade Paredes. You're going to have to make your team better some way, somehow. The guy that has the most value right now on this team, bearing veterans away as in Altuve, Correa, Walker, and Pena's not going anywhere. Paredes is the odd man out. So, like I said, it's a good problem to have if the Astros do carry him onto the opening day roster and if he's still with Houston going into the 2026 season. Nothing wrong with that. But do not be surprised if Houston trades him during the regular season, or it just depends on what happens going into the season. You still got spring training. You still got 1 month until opening day in March 26th. So you just have to see what happens about that. But that is a bunch of infield talk. Let's talk about what the Astros are making moves already. And being two of them, known players in this organization in the history of Astros baseball. And I'm not saying that they're history guys, but the Astros did acquire outfielder Joey Loperfido and traded away outfielder Jesus Sanchez. Houston, and this trade, like I had mentioned, was a salary dump. It was to get away from that 6.8 million that they were going to give Sanchez. And that's what I was about to say. I mean, they shed the 6.8 million off their payroll, taking Sanchez off. And what they got in return is a guy that they have control for 5 more years. Is Loperfido the answer? Like I had mentioned earlier, no, he is not the answer for your left-handed hitter because Dana Brown's always looking for guys, and I believe he's looking for a guy that's specifically power slash contact. That's going to be almost an everyday type of player that he would like to put in his outfield. But Loperfido did report to camp on Valentine's Day on Saturday, February 14th. And this is what Loperfido had to say about the trade. He said, quote, I didn't really see it coming, but at the same time, you always know that stuff like this can happen and will happen, end quote. And then he did talk about on his return coming back to the Houston Astros. And he said, quote, it's a familiar place. I still know a ton of guys in that clubhouse and keep in touch with them pretty regularly. And staff-wise, I feel like I know a lot of the guys that were there when I was playing there in 24. So if I had to go anywhere to go back there, loved playing there, great fan base, obviously, and a great team. So if I had to go anywhere, I'm happy to go back to Houston, end quote. And I had posted on my X account of when he got traded. And I remember that time it was the trade deadline and Jake Bloss was warming up. And then all of a sudden you saw him come off the field. And a lot of media guys were trying to figure out, well, what's happening. It looks like something's brewing. He's supposed to be starting for the Astros. And then all of a sudden they called off and said another starting pitcher is going to be starting in Jake Bloss's place. So right there and then, that's when they announced that Jake Bloss, Will Wagner, Joey Loperfido have been traded for Yusei Kikuchi from the Toronto Blue Jays. And I mean, the media scrummed real quick. Of course, Joey was going to be open to the media. And I had the video there. If you had watched it, it's on my Twitter page. But I mean, you saw the emotion in that kid because he just got to the MLB level that year. He had a good, I'd say, defensive, even offensive too. I mean, he was really highly regarded in spring training at the time. The Astros didn't put him on the opening day roster, and he just kept hitting away at AAA Sugarland, and then obviously would be able to get his contract bought by the Astros to be brought up into making his MLB debut. And I mean, Houston was a big thing for him. I mean, he embraced the city. Of course, if you are nostalgia of music, MIA, Paper Planes, really underrated walk-up song by him, which you're probably going to hear more at Dyken Park now when he steps onto the plate, or if he does play at AAA Sugarland, depending if he makes the opening day roster. However, I mean, like I mentioned, I mean, the kid was very emotional. He said that Houston was home for him already and being traded. I mean, it's a business. I mean, you saw the tears in his eyes. I mean, it did really hit him that hard. But knowing that he's back in Houston, like he had mentioned, he knows a lot of the guys from 24, and of course from the guys that were in the farm system with him during the times at spring at AAA Sugarland. My mistake. And Dana Brown did have to talk about Loperfido as well, discussing on why Houston went out and why Dana had gone out to go acquire him. And this is what he said, quote, his bat is going in the right direction. So I wouldn't say he's one of our main targets, but I would say he's a guy we looked at and he's headed in the right direction, end quote. More of a versatility guy that you could plug and play in different situations in games. If you need a defensive guy in the outfield, I think you can really plug in Loperfido in any of the corner positions. That's where he's more familiar with in left field and right. Uh, so let's say Jose Altuve starting in left field and the Astros have a 2-run lead. Eighth inning, you would see Joe Espada probably more than likely going to put a defensive change in the outfield to make the outfield more stronger in situations like that. So that's where I see Loperfido. If he does make the Astros opening day roster, he's going to be a guy that's going to be coming off the bench and giving a boost into the outfield. Like I said, very versatile. If Dana said his bat is hitting in the right direction, then hey, it's heading in the right direction. And then not to mention what he did mention when he finished that press conference. After the press conference was done, he did say, quote, we're not done. We are not done. And I do believe he's not done. Like I mentioned, with Paredes, he's more of a target that's going to be traded. And like I said before, I'd be shocked if he is on the Astros opening day roster. If he is, he is. But you got an infield surplus. You can really use a left-handed power / contact hitter in this lineup that is already right-handed heavy. And the only left-handed hitter you really have is either you play Zach Cole, but if you don't play Zach Cole, it's only Yordan Alvarez. So you would like to try to get some type of balance in that lineup, at least with another left-handed hitter. If Zach, like I mentioned, if Zach Cole's not playing, then you will need to put another left-handed hitter. But a lot of fans were like thinking too, like, well, you just traded away a left-handed hitter for a left-handed hitter. So what's going on? Well, like I mentioned before, one, taking that salary dump away from the Jesus Sanchez arbitration agreement, $6.8 million. Astros are trying to find their way to save money and try to make another move or another signing. So that's why, one, that was a pawn of why they traded away Jesus Sanchez. And another, I think the team was really expecting a lot from Jesus when they acquired him at the trade deadline. This was a highly regarded guy that had great offensive numbers against right-handed pitching. But when he came to Houston, he wasn't hitting the ball really well. He was striking out a lot. And, there were some games that he'd go 4 for 4. Think about that Baltimore game. He hit really well, or he had multiple multi-hit games. Looked like he found it, but then he would go cold real quick. He'd have an 0 for 19, 0 for 21 streak. Defensively, too, he wasn't really what Houston was hoping for in the outfield. There were some mistakes that he had in some games that didn't catch the ball correctly, not fielding the ball correctly in the outfield as well. So I think Houston, that hurt them. Really, Jesus Sanchez hurt himself for really trying to show out for the Astros. And for Houston, they thought they were getting a young kid like him that has potential to be a really great offensive player and could improve in his defense. But that little stint that they had in the second half of the season, it just didn't really go well for Houston. And the Astros are like, you know what, we gotta throw it away, and we're gonna have to see if we can either trade him, DFA him. And Angel had mentioned too that this guy could be a non-tender candidate, and the Astros decided to tender because they were going to do something like this later on, which was a trade. And Houston did acquire Joey Loperfido. So, like I said, I don't think Dana Brown's not done. There's going to be one more move. If it's not going to be a signing, it's going to be a trade. If it's not going to be a trade, it's going to be a signing because the Astros still they have enough money to go get a backup catcher. According to Javier Gonzalez, the Astros and sources from him, the Astros are one of the teams that are interested in Christian. The New York Yankees are interested. The Seattle Mariners are interested. So there's still a lot of teams interested in a veteran backup catcher like Vasquez. I still believe that he can be a good backup. But if the Astros do roll the dice with Cesar Salazar, if you're a Nationals fan or if you're just into the baseball world, it's not a bad backup catching situation because, like I mentioned, for me, speaking for me at least, he knows the pitching staff, he knows the coaching staff as well. Not to mention too that MLB is now implementing the ABS for pitchers and catchers. Well, who's been doing that in Sugarland with the Space Cowboys? Cesar Salazar. So he has a very good familiarity with the strike zone. And if he thinks one pitch is really good for this pitcher, and let's say it's a 3-2 count, he can be like, you know what? Hey, I want to challenge it, taps his helmet, successful or unsuccessful. So big move still going for the Astros. Like I mentioned, if it's not a signing, it's a trade. If it's not a trade, it's a signing. And not going into the other part with the Houston Astros. Hall of Famer's son. Well, who's that Hall of Famer's son? It's Craig Biggio's son, Cavan Biggio. If you remember him being one of the ball boys and the bat boys from them Killer Bee days, go pick up the bats or give the balls to the umpire or be down the first and third base line getting the foul balls. Well, hey, he's already a big leaguer. He was really a good, highly prospect with the Toronto Blue Jays. They thought he was going to be with the Bo Bichettes and the Vladimir Guerreros and that future of the Blue Jays organization. But he only had a small stint there, then been a journeyman ever since with some teams. And the Astros decided to sign Cavan to a minor league contract and included an invite to Major League spring training camp, but is a non-roster invitee, NRI. So Biggio did arrive at West Palm Beach on Sunday, and he did talk to the media, talking about, of course, being with the Houston Astros, number one, of course, and what he sees his position with Houston coming into spring training. But going and talking about joining the Houston Astros is what Cavan had to say. Quote, the colors are a little different, but the meaning is still the same. It's definitely a little bit more special wearing it as a player than, say, a bad boy. End quote. So, like I mentioned, I mean, he's been in Houston for his whole career. I'm born and raised in Houston, if I'm not mistaken, and as well. When I believe he went to St. Thomas High School, and you come from that Biggio tree, and a lot of Astro fans adored Craig Biggio. They loved Craig Biggio. They loved Jeff Bagwell. I mean, like I mentioned, the Killer Bees, Lance Berkman, and you're basically a part of family from the Astro fans. They bring you in like you basically were already there. So for him to be, and this is just me for speaking, seeing him in an Astros uniform is going to be crazy compared to, like he said, he was a bad boy getting the bats and distributing the balls to the home plate umpire. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be a really cool, just full circle moment for the Biggio family and just even himself going out there and being able to wear a Houston Astros uniform just like his dad had did, and being the first Astro into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. So he will be wearing number 4. He will be wearing George Springer's number. So we will just have to see what he brings into the MLB roster. I don't know if he'll stay with the Astros, but you never know what can happen. Nick Allen could be dealing with an injury, or somebody else deals with an injury. He might have a good spot of going in the infield. So you just never know what can happen into this game. But But yeah, sign a minor league contract. Have to see if he cracks the MLB roster. Moving on to some player interviews. And one of the biggest interviews I would have to say is a well known Astro, bury me in the H, all of that. And it's Lance McCullers Jr. And of course, Astro fans know he's been dealing with injury after injury after injury. Um, and that plays a role into your mental health. That plays a role into other stuff. Like if you remember too, he didn't have a great game, and next thing you know, they're attacking him, attacking his family, sending those type of letters, and that plays a toll on an MLB player. And for Lance McCullers too, especially wanting to be with the guys, wanting to contribute to a World Series championship run, just being able to play baseball just in general as a full healthy pitcher. And Lance McCullers, of course, the biggest one, talking about his future and if this is it after his last year. He is entering the last year of his contract, of his 5-year deal. And this is what Lance had to say on the future. He said, quote, "I would love to be good, not because I want to necessarily continue to play, but just because I would love to be good for this organization and this fan base in my last year here. And then if playing comes beyond that, it does." End quote. And then there's another quote going more in depth if this could possibly be his last year. Either one, being with the Houston Astros, or two, just in general, baseball career. Quote, "I have no reservations about my future in baseball. God's blessed me, man. I have two beautiful daughters. I have a beautiful wife. We've been married 10 years together, 16, 17 years. So the future for me is to be home with them. I'll be happy with that. I'll be content with that. But if the future for me is to be in this game, if I can be healthy and help a team win, I'll be happy with that too." End quote. And nobody is more frustrated than Lance McCullers Jr. Because one, you want to be able to contribute to a championship team. You want to be able to stay healthy and pitch a 1 inning, 2 innings, 5 innings, seven, a shutout at least. So it hurts McCullers a lot to say this in this interview because he never would have thought, hey, this is my last year. Because this pitcher right here has a dog mentality when he goes onto the mound. He hunts for strikeouts. He hunts for the big punch in a big ball game. No one's going to forget the 2017 ALCS with the 24 straight curveballs. So for McCullers, like I mentioned, it's a big toll on him. And this is my opinion. If he has another injury, which, praying that he doesn't, because you would like to see baseball players just play a healthy season and show off their talent. But injured or non-injured, I believe this might be his last year, not just with the Houston Astros, but the last year in baseball. Like he had mentioned, if he's with his family, that's just, at the end of the day, just kind of like, you know what? I did my role. I have 2 World Series rings. I've had a good baseball, season and a career. So for Lance McCullers, it will hurt him thinking that this could possibly be his last year. But for him going into 2026, he wants to contribute. He wants to be able, like he had mentioned in the quote, "I would love to be good for this organization and this fan base in my last year here." This guy has a tattoo that says "Bury me in the H." And of course, if you know Houston social on the Twitter world, at least for Houston sports, Apollo Houston is that media company that he worked with. "Bury me in the H," or Houston versus everyone. He embraced the city. He embraced the culture, getting grills and 713, everything like that goes into the Houston culture here in H Town. So if this is Lance McCullers Jr.'s last ride with the Astros, and if you're an Astros fan, you are hoping the best for him. You are hoping that he plays a big part of this baseball season for the Astros because you would not like to see him go out on a bad way with Houston. You would like to go and see him go out and give everything he got, and knowing that at the end of the day, when he retires, he gave everything and his all for the Houston Astros. And you cannot talk about the golden era of Astros baseball without Lance McCullers Jr. You just can't. 2017, I'm not even sure the last starting pitcher to have a RBI, but Lance McCullers Jr. has an RBI in a World Series game. A pitcher having an RBI in a World Series game. Just let that sink in for a little bit more. Of course, the ALCS being a big one. After game 6, you see him warming up in the outfield in game 7 during the MLB Network broadcast, getting ready for that big game in game 7. In 2015, wearing them Batman cleats, even Josh Reddick had gone to X and talked about, um, yelling at him about wearing them type of cleats. A veteran going after a rookie talking about, but that's just McCullers, man. That he has that swagger, he has that ambition, that moxie, and no one will remember or forget. If you do not remember, 2021 was a huge year for the Astros rotation. No Justin Verlander. Dallas Keuchel had he was already gone in 2018. Charlie Morton was gone. The Astros really didn't have a well-experienced starting rotation. Luis Garcia came on to pawn. Christian Javier was another pitcher that came on. But 2021, honestly, not bad numbers. And 28 game start, which is his career high, 3.3 WAR, 3.16 ERA, only giving up 57 runs, 76 walks, which that is a career high. Wow, that's a lot. Career high in strikeouts, 185. But hits per 9 innings being the lowest, 6.8. Walks per 9 innings, 4.2, which is about a second highest. Strikeout per 9 innings, 10.3. He finished the American League Cy Young as the 7th best in the American League. No, you will not forget the impact that he had before the Astros advanced to the ALCS against the Boston Red Sox in 2021. That impact that he had in the ALDS versus the Chicago White Sox. Short rest going in game 5, giving everything he got. And then after that game, that's when they gave him the news that he was dealing with an injury and that possibly he could be shut down for the whole season and possibly not even pitch for 2022. But you know what? He gave it his all because he gave it all on the line for the team to be able to win that game. And look what happened. It made them go to the ALCS, from the ALCS going into the World Series. Framber Valdez also was in that rotation, not to mention. But your very well-known, experienced starting pitcher was Lance McCullers Jr. Now, McCullers was pitching in that World Series against the Braves. Maybe it could have been a different story. Just maybe. But just overall, as a player with McCullers, he's just done everything what he can for the city of Houston and just for the Astros organization in general, just for the fans in general. So if this is the last ride for him in an Astros uniform or just in baseball in general, then hey, it's a tip of a cap. Yes, it wasn't a big, huge career. He only had one All-Star appearance and, like I said, 2 World Series rings. But hey, he is going to be etched for Astros history in that golden era for the rest of his life. Next year is going to be the 10-year anniversary that the Astros won their first World Series. Hey, best believe he's going to be there for that reunion. So it's if you're a Nationals fan, more than likely, I think Houston is going to go to a 6-man rotation in the beginning of the season. It's like 20 straight games. But Lance McCullers Jr., in my eyes, he's probably going to get into that 5 or 6 spot of that rotation. So if everything goes well at spring training, like I mentioned, he probably will be for sure he'll be in the end of that 6-man rotation. Some other small little things, not too big one as the Lance McCullers Jr. one, but hey, Correa on the World Baseball Classic and Bad Bunny. I mean, shoot, Bad Bunny was going to pay for Javier Baez. He was going to pay for Francisco Lindor and Carlos Correa's insurance. So then they could participate in the World Baseball Classic. Not to mention, it's in Puerto Rico. So that's the difficult part for a guy like Correa and a guy like Lindor. I mean, Lindor had an injury, so I don't think he was going to be able to play in the WBC if he wanted to. And of course, you heard about the bias story with what he had get caught with. Um, but this was Correa talking about the the World Baseball Classic and Bad Bunny paying the insurance, and he had talked about that MLB, the Astros, and his agent Scott Boras didn't think it was a good idea for him to go with insurance that Bad Bunny was going because the insurance company had brought up an a not a not even I'm not even going to put a number. They had cases and not paying players back. So Correa wasn't, like he had mentioned in his interview, he wasn't going to throw his career away, or I don't know how he had said it, but something like that. So yes, he would have loved to go to Puerto Rico to play in front of his family, especially in the island that he was born in. And he talks a little bit more about it here, about playing in front of the island, the country of Puerto Rico. Quote, I wanted my kids to experience that with me. And it would have been a cool experience for him, for his family, specifically though for his boys, man. I thought that would have been cool, and of course Correa would have had that opportunity to tell them, hey, I played in the World Baseball Classic in front of the whole country in Puerto Rico, representing my country. So unfortunate for him, but of course, too, he's getting ready for the Astros 2026 season. And speaking of another shortstop, Jeremy Pena. Well, Correa's not shortstop no more. Former shortstop, but JP3 is a guy that's playing the shortstop position, and his goal for 2026, like I had mentioned in the beginning, is to play the full season. And this is the quote from him. He said, "As a player, I want to be able to say that I played every single game of the season. It is definitely a goal of mine." End quote. Two, if you already know, if you've been hiding under a rock, that he is engaged to his longtime girlfriend, Julia Grosso. He's been getting entertained with soccer. He said he never watched soccer until he finally met her, and he's very excited about the wedding planning and stuff like that. But I do see JP3 playing the 162 game season. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the show, if he didn't have those injuries, he would have played the 162 games, no doubt about it. However, injuries do play a toll, and it got the best of him. So, last but not least, some injury updates. Nothing too big or major updates that we have seen, at least so far. Josh Hader being the number one, I would say, biggest player in spring training regarding his role as the Astros everyday closer. And this was last Wednesday on February 11th. And that's when it was announced that Hader stopped his throwing program because of arm soreness. According from Brian McTaggart, imaging revealed inflammation in the biceps tendon, so he wasn't throwing about 10 to 11 days. Though he did resume his throwing program that same day, but it was just more of a flat ground. It wasn't on a mound or anything like that. It was just in the outfield kind of thing. So just playing some toss. Inyo de los Santos had a right knee strain and is on a no throw for a couple of days, according to McTaggart as well. Not sure if we have any big news on that, and maybe not. But that was the last update. Like I said, I'm getting everything from this first week of spring training at West Palm Beach. Yonder Diaz sprained his left foot while playing in the Lindum Winter League in the Dominican Republic. Diaz did catch Tatsuya Imai's bullpen, though, that Wednesday of, like I said, with Josh Hader, February 11th. But he will be limited in his running progression throughout the first week of spring training. But last Sunday, which was this past Sunday, Diaz did do some running drills and call Hunter Brown's live bullpen on Sunday. So that is all the injuries updates that we have, and that is the end of our show. I wish we had a little bit more information, but of course, some other miscellaneous things. Colin Gordon is going to be starting the Astros first spring training game, so he will be having that. Let's see, what else can I think at the top of my head? Of course, Bryce Matthews is going to be playing center field and second base in spring training. Zach Cole is going to get all the outfield positions, left, right, and center field. So that's all I have on that so far. Anything else in the top of my head? I just cannot think of anything. If we're just talking about baseball coming to Dyken Park, you do have the Bruce Bowl College Classic coming down with college teams and Ole Miss, Texas, Coastal Carolina, um, and there's three other college teams I don't have right in front of me, but that's coming to Houston the last week of February. So if you haven't got your tickets, I think that'd be cool for your kids to go and see, just to experience a college baseball game. If you can't drive to one, hey, it's right there in the heart of downtown Houston at the Icebox, as people call it. After that, that is the World Baseball Classic. That'd be coming in very hot, and I am very excited to be able to cover that. It's going to be very fun um, to be able to talk to these players that are representing their country, or a family member or anything like that. So it's going to be awesome seeing the pool games with USA, Mexico, Italy, Brazil, and Great Britain. Do not sleep on Team Italy. I think Italy's a good team with some good baseball players on their roster. So that's a sleeper team. I'd say Canada too is a sleeper team. Um, but yeah, watch for those teams. At least in that pool, in my opinion, I think USA and Mexico is going to take it. But USA, if like I said, if there was a fringe one, it'd be Mexico, and that's why I said them two teams, at least Great Britain and Israel, and not Israel, Italy. It's going to be very competitive in that pool to see who gets that second spot in the runner up for. I think it's Pool B. But if you haven't followed me, I'm on X, Lorenzo Delgado, the last O being A0. So if you want to be able to be in touch with the coverage of the WBC, that's where you can find me. That's where you can follow me for more information and some great features that we will be writing throughout the World Baseball Classic in Houston. But till then, y'all stay safe. And like I mentioned at the bottom, that's where we have our social media platforms, from TikTok and Twitter, Full Steam Ahead, as well FSA Full Steam Ahead on Instagram, Full Steam Ahead on YouTube. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I have some of the spring training interviews that I want to be able to get and uploaded, but with the work schedule I have and just being a father and being a family man, it's been a little difficult trying to get everything going all at once, especially with all the videos that are coming in from spring training. So like I said, I'm gonna try to do my best on doing that, and we'll be able to get that out pretty soon. So if you haven't done already, make sure you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Then you can get that notification bell too, so when then interviews pop up as well on our podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. Like, rate, download, give some feedback, some ratings, all of that. Much appreciated. We should have a guest come in during spring training. I'm not going to say who it is, but we are going to have a guest. I just will not announce who it's going to be until it gets kind of closer. So if you haven't already followed us on our social media, majority of our time we're being on X, but we're going to try to do our best to get back on Instagram. That's where we will announce our special guests in spring training. So till then, y'all stay safe. Have a blessed rest of your week. If something big comes, we're going to try our best to get on and deliver the breaking news. If not, we will talk to y'all next week and give you more updates and analysis of the Houston Astros. Till then, y'all stay safe and have a good weekend.